Hey, my feel good friend. Welcome back to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm so excited to be in your earbuds. As always, my friend, we are still recording from the closet. I don't know if you are keeping track of how many episodes I have now recorded in a closet once again, but if you didn't hear, basically, about 3 years ago, when I started this podcast journey, I started out recording from my closet. And since then, I have graduated out of the closet. I normally find just a quiet corner of wherever I'm at to record from. However, for the past few weeks, I have hopped back into a closet, not the original closet, because hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes in this podcasting world. So I just have to share with you my closet journey right now because I think it's kind of funny and hopefully it's relatable to you as well. Okay. I am so excited, irrationally excited about today's topic, my friend, because we are chatting all about how to create your About Me story highlight. Okay. And this is a topic that I'm going to geek out about. I will have to give you that warning right now. We're about to go way far down the geek out train with Kinsey because I absolutely love storytelling. I love talking about how we can create Instagram story highlights in sequences in the most strategic way. And I love talking about how you can use the personal aspects of you and your brand to leverage better relationships, more genuine connections with your ideal customers so that you can get to know each other better and hopefully drive deeper connection and boost your sales down the road with your people. Okay. So that is what we are going to be talking about on today's episode. We're going to be getting nitty gritty into the details of exactly what you should include in your About Me story highlight slides. And I'm going to be sharing an example of the different slides that I have actually included in Canva templates that I've created for the Feel Good Social Club's content library that are all about me story highlights, right? Actually, this topic is super top of mind for me because this month for October, the new Canva templates that I have dropped into the Feel Good Social Club's content library are about me story highlight templates that Feel Good Social Clubbers can customize for your brand and use for your Instagram story highlights. And they're already set up in a way where basically you just have to go in and customize your own stuff about your brand, slap them up on Instagram. Easy peasy, right? So today I'm going to be sharing the strategy behind it and also be sharing the example slides and the different information that you can include in your About Me story highlights, and especially based on these templates that I'm dropping into the Feel Good Social Club in October. So I just had to share that if you are interested in joining the Feel Good Social Club and snagging these customizable Canva templates for About Me story highlights, check out the club, feelgoodsocial.com/club. It's our monthly membership. There are tons of customizable Canva templates in there for social media marketing. There are also monthly content planning workshops where we come together and brainstorm ideas, and you can have my help in creating a content strategy for your brand for every upcoming month. Plus, we have an awesome community full of rad folks who I just know you're going to love, my friend. So if you're interested in joining the Feel Good Social Club, it's feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to have you in there, my friend. All right, without further ado, let's dive into how you can create an About Me story highlight for your brand for Instagram. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. All right, my friend. I am so excited to dive into this topic. Like I said at the top of this episode, we're about to geek out and it's going to be lots of fun. Don't worry. I'm going to try to outline all the details and give you examples of all the things I'm saying. And so I do want to encourage you. This is definitely an episode that you might want to go grab a pen and paper to take notes. Okay. This is something that I hear from a lot of my longtime listeners. I absolutely love it when they send me like pictures of like their notebooks of like the notes they've taken from the episodes and stuff. And it happens quite often because I do tend to share very actionable tips and I really try to help you brainstorm ideas for your specific brand, right? So this is going to be one of those episodes. So go ahead and pause this episode if you want to. Go grab a pen and paper so you can jot down ideas for your brand as we dive into all the ins and outs of About Me story highlights and how you can create one. And let's go ahead and just get into this topic because I can't wait any longer. Okay. So first thing I always like to touch on is what the heck I'm actually talking about, right? When I'm talking about story highlights and specifically the About You story highlight for your brand, right? So basically Instagram stories are a type of post on Instagram that you can share and it is only available for 24 hours, right? If you ever see anyone's profile photo lit up with like a little circle, colorful circle around it, that means that they have shared to their quote unquote stories. And if you click and tap that, they're basically like casual, relatable snapshots of people's lives. And they are only available for 24 hours generally, right? So after 24 hours, they disappear. However, Instagram allows you to create a quote unquote story highlight, actually multiple story highlights, which allows your stories to be viewed for longer than 24 hours. So if you create a story highlight, that story sequence is then pinned to the top of your Instagram profile, underneath your bio, right? Underneath your profile photo and name and all that stuff, underneath your bio, but above your grid and feed, that is where you'll find the story highlights section. And it is really, really useful and great real estate for you to utilize actually because it's right there at the top of your profile and people see it even before they start scrolling down your grid and all that different stuff, right? So I think it's important to be strategic if possible with your story highlights. I'm going to be honest, Feel Good Socials actually could use a refresh. So hopefully I will use this episode as inspiration to go refresh Feel Good Socials story highlights because they need it. But I do encourage people all the time to one, create story highlights, and two, be as strategic as possible with the story highlights that you are pinning to that awesome place on your Instagram profile. Because basically, when people land on your profile, it's like the third or fourth thing that they see, right? They're looking at your profile photo and kind of leading down into your bio. And then it's the story highlights. And so this is a really great place to put information that allows people to get to know your brand better, you better as the head of your business, more about your offers, right? More about your brand values behind the scenes of your work, customer testimonials, right? These are all different story highlights that you could pin sequences of your stories to the top of your profile that would allow people to be like, oh yeah, let me get to know the brand better. Let me get to know the owner better. Let me see what people are saying about this brand. Hit the customer testimonial story highlight, right? These are all different types of highlights that you could create. But today, specifically, we are going to be talking about the quote unquote About Me story highlight, or it could be About Us story highlight. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit more why this is so important. I've already kind of touched on this. In my notes for these episodes, I always immediately type out what, why, how, right? So that I hit those notes because those are the most important questions that people want to know. But sometimes I get ahead of myself, right? So anyway, I've already mentioned a few of these why these are so important, right? But again, to reiterate, It's great real estate right at the top of your profile. And you're going to be hitting people with information that they're curious about when they land on your profile, thinking, should I give this person a follow? What's this brand all about? Should I go visit their website? Is this a brand that I'd want to work with? They can easily hit your Instagram story highlights and find out more about you quickly without having to go through all of your Instagram posts, right? Another reason that I freaking love using Instagram story highlights is because of the interactive story features that Instagram has included in stories specifically, right? Normal Instagram posts in your feed, you can't link to your website through the post, right? People normally just have to go to your profile and then hit your website and then try to find whatever the heck you were talking about in the post, right? But in stories, you can actually include a specific link that people can just tap and click on, right? Which is amazing because then if people are looking at a story highlight that is featuring your different most popular offers or something like that, which is another story highlight that I'm creating for the Feel Good Social Club for next month for November, which is awesome. But if someone is looking at a story highlight that's going through your specific offers and they see, oh, this is what I need help with, right? They can just click the link specifically on that slide of your story highlight and it can take them to your specific website where they can sign up for that specific offer or find that specific product or whatever it is, right? I mean, to that extent, you can also include links to specific products if you have Instagram shopping for your business, right? There are also interactive features such as polls, question boxes, all of these different types of ways to engage. Plus, I just love Instagram stories in general. I've recorded several podcast episodes about this at this point because they feel more personable and easier for people to engage with, right? So if someone is landing on your profile, if they're kind of checking you out, they're like, ooh, like this seems like a person I might want to work with, right? They click on your About Me story highlight. They learn more. They relate to you more because they love dogs too. And they say you own 3 dogs. I'm raising my hand over here. And then they're going through to your offer feature highlight and they're like, oh, I think that this could be for me, but I'm not sure. They're more likely to respond to that story highlight with a message that will then end up in your DMs on Instagram so you can have a one-on-one conversation with them and probably get them to sign up for whatever they're interested in, right? Stories in general are easier for people to engage with and start conversations with just because it's like more private and less public and easier for people to do that. And so ultimately, Instagram story highlights can really, really help you to convert. Okay. So that is one of the reasons that I love Instagram story highlights. Specifically, the About Me highlight is super, super important because it allows people to learn more about you as the head of your business, right? It allows them to get to know, like, and trust you and your brand and ultimately want to choose to buy from you and not other people who are selling very similar things like you, right? Anytime you can share your story and tell more people about you and about your brand and who you are, give them a chance to relate to you and get to know you, the more you'll stand out in the sea of other online businesses who are just like yours, right? So the About Me story highlight is super, super helpful for that specifically. If you're worried about feeling like, oh my God, I don't think anyone wants to get to know me or learn more about me, like get over yourself of not being into yourself, okay? No, people do want to get to know you, okay? It's just a fact. It's going to be helpful for your business. You are super interesting. You are super cool. You're going to attract super interesting and cool people who are similar to you, who want to work with you. You got to tell people about yourself, my friend. And About Me story highlight is the perfect way to do it. All right, so now that we've got the what and the why covered, let's go ahead and dive deep into the how of your Instagram story highlight. And this is where I'm going to start talking really fast and get really jazz handsy over here and excited. So bear with me. Okay, let's talk about it. The first thing that I want to encourage you to do when it comes to your Instagram story highlights in general, but this about me one specifically, is brainstorm. What is this about? What information do I want to include? All that jazz, right? So here are 3 questions that you can ask yourself. What is the most important information that I can share with my ideal customers when it comes to telling them about me, about my story, and about my brand, right? What's that important information that I want them to know? Okay, second question. What is the most relatable or interesting information that I can share with my ideal customers when it comes to talking about me and about my brand, right? What is relatable to them specifically? Remember who we are speaking to. Are your ideal customers other online business owners? Then they probably would relate to your favorite coffee drink or something like that, right? I mean, most people would, if we're honest. What is the most interesting facts about you or quirky things that are kind of memorable about you? Brainstorm those because they are gold to share in your About Me story highlights, okay? Okay, third question. How can I make this story highlight about them? About my ideal customers. And this is where a lot of people kind of start to get confused when it comes to sharing your story online anywhere, right? Whether it's website, email, social media, Instagram story highlight. Sharing about me, there's a lot of places that you can share your story, share about you as the head of your business. However, it is very, very important to always be considering how can I include my ideal customers in my story? How can I invite them into my story? How can I turn my story around and make it about them and point something out to them that they haven't thought about quite yet, right? And we'll talk more about how to do that because it can feel a little bit confusing. A lot of times people are like, wait, I thought I was sharing about me, but now it's about them. Like, how am I supposed to do that? Don't worry, I will share a few tips when we get to outlining your slides here in a second. But that's always important to consider, right? When it comes to your brand, when it comes to telling personal stories or telling about your brand or anything like that, just remembering who you're speaking to, your ideal customers, and asking yourself, how can I make them feel included more in this? Or how can I turn this around and make it more about them? Because ultimately, that's the strategy. And ultimately, that's what you want to do when you're showing up for your brand. Even when you're talking about yourself, you are talking about your ideal customers as well. Okay. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. Okay, so after you brainstorm these 3 questions, what is the most important information that I want to share with my ideal customers about me and about my brand? What is the most relatable and interesting information that I want to share with my ideal customers about me and about my brand? And how can I make my story about them more so? Then let's start outlining your story slides, okay? And I say this because it is very, very important to think about your Instagram story highlight as a sequence of slides. I call them slides because I think I create most things on Canva, and like in Canva they're all separate slides, right? It feels like a PowerPoint presentation to me, just in like a vertical format instead of a horizontal format, right? So that's why I label them slides. But basically it's the sequence of graphics that you are creating in this story highlight, the different stories that you are going to include in a sequence that will then be pinned into the same story highlight. Okay. So think about the different slides and what do you want to include on each of these slides to make it a sequence that makes sense for you and your brand, and ultimately leads your ideal customer back to thinking about themselves and how they can relate to your brand and how they can use your brand to help themselves, right? That is the purpose of our About Me story highlight sequence. That was a long jumbled sentence. And so that's what we need to be thinking about it, the different slides that go into this sequence, okay? Okay, so a few things to consider when it comes to creating this About Me story highlight sequence is to think about the story that you are telling ultimately. And by story, I don't mean like Instagram story, I mean like once upon a time story, right? So, all the best stories include an introduction, a middle, and an end, right? So, think about how this sequence can actually feel cohesive and be turned into kind of this experience, this story that you are taking your customers on, this journey that you are telling and taking your customers on, so that it feels good and so that it makes the most sense for them as they're going through your story sequence, right? What is the intro? What is the middle guts of the story? And what is the end that you should always include? And don't worry, I'm going to tell you what those are here in a second. Okay, another thing to consider is to think about the user experience when it comes to Instagram stories and how people are going to be consuming this story highlight that you're creating, right? So I think about this every time I am creating a social media post, anytime I'm doing anything in my business, let's be honest. But like every time I go to create a social media post, I think about, okay, if I'm creating a reel, how are people consuming reels? Like they get onto the platform and they usually swipe up to look at the next reel, right? They're like, okay. I think that's what they do. I don't know. I've been using TikTok more often lately. And so they do that on TikTok. Now I'm like second guessing myself with Instagram. Anyway, think about how people are consuming reels. Think about if people are scrolling through feed, like what are they doing? Are they like you're capturing their attention with like your visual, and then they might be led into reading the caption or something like that, right? For Instagram stories, people consume stories especially quickly, right? Instagram stories, people are kind of tapping through stories fairly quickly, right? It's like slide, next slide, next slide, next slide. Like, and they're tapping through the screen. That's how people consume Instagram stories. And so the information can go by very, very quickly, right? So honestly, often when it comes to creating long-winded, heavy texted Instagram stories, I will recommend that sometimes people, if like, for example, there's one story slide that's like a bullet point list of like, when you work with me, we will do X, Y, Z, right? Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. Sometimes with Instagram stories, it's a good idea to have multiple slides with the same information and have people go through a sequence of bullet point one, and then the next slide you add the next bullet point onto it, so it's bullet point 1 and 2, and then the next slide you add the next bullet point onto it, bullet points 1, 2, and 3. So it's a sequence of adding another bullet point for individual slides. And when people are consuming that on their Instagram stories, they'll be tapping through and it'll just seem like, okay, tap, see the one bullet point, tap, see the second bullet point, tap, see the third bullet point, right? I'm not saying that you need to do this, but it's important to think about the user experience. Is this like slide that I'm creating for my About Me story highlight, like too text heavy? Am I trying to put too much information in one slide? How can I make this easier for my ideal customer to consume? Do I need to get rid of some of the information? Do I need to stretch the information out over multiple slides to make it easier for them to read and see and get through in a quick manner? Do I want to kind of stagger my release of the information through multiple slides so that when they are tapping through their Instagram stories, it'll be easier for them to kind of process and see like that, right? So I'm not like, there's lots of different ways to do this. It's just important to always be thinking about the user experience from your customer's point of view when you are creating content for your brand, and think, how can I make this easier for them? Right? Okay. Another thing you can consider is to think about your big picture strategy, especially when it comes to Instagram story highlights, right? Because for regular Instagram stories, they only last for 24 hours. So you don't necessarily need to be as thoughtful about them, right? Sometimes, your calls to action for Instagram stories that just last 24 hours are just like a very timely call of action that's like, today. Like if you're going through a launch of something, or you're trying to sell one of your offers and the cart is closing, by midnight tonight, it would make a lot of sense for you to share an Instagram story with that call to action that it's your last chance to sign up for this offer. The cart is closing at midnight, right? But if you would put that in your Instagram story highlight, because it is supposed to last for longer than 24 hours, then people are going to be watching this next month and they're going to be like, what the heck? This cart closed a month ago. I don't know. I'm just making up this example right now. But it's something to think about, right? Your Instagram story highlights strategy is not going to be quite the same as your Instagram story strategy. So keep in mind the fact that these are going to be living on the top of your profile for longer than 24 hours, for most likely 3 months to 6 months to 2 years if you're me and forget to update your story highlights in a while. I promise I'm going to go update my story highlights. I hope to have my story highlights updated by the time this episode is released. However, we will see if that happens. Head to Feel Good Social on Instagram at Feel Good Social. Go check out my story highlights. If they look very, kind of jumbled and not like they fit together, then I haven't gotten around to redoing them. And so you can totally give me grief about it. If they are looking better, awesome. I'm glad I had time to do that. We will see what happens. Anyway, just be thinking about your big picture strategy and remember that these story highlights are going to live on your profile for a while. So how can you make them evergreen? How can you make the content make sense for a longer period of time? How can you make your call to actions make sense for a longer period of time? For example, another example real quick, the podcast episodes that I share every week, right? If I say if I'm talking about a specific episode, this week's specific episode, but then I say head to my link in my profile and find like my podcast page, right? Then, eventually the episode that I'm talking about in the moment story is going to get buried as I share more episodes from the podcast, right? So just be thinking about that sort of thing. And then the final thing I want you to think about when it comes to outlining your slides is, what features on Instagram do you want to be using, right? Because ultimately, for the Feel Good Social Club, I created these Instagram story highlight slides in Canva, right? I created template slides for my Feel Good Social Clubbers to come in and customize for their brands in Canva, a separate software. So awesome. I love me some Canva. Definitely check it out if you haven't tried it yet. But, when I'm creating these Instagram story slides in Canva, often I'm forgetting about the features that I can actually add on Instagram itself. After I download my story highlight slides from Canva and then go to share them to Instagram, there are all these cool features that I couldn't have added in Canva that I can only add after I am sharing them in Instagram, such as Instagram polls or the link sticker or the question box or whatnot, right? So if you are creating an Instagram story highlight for your brand in Canva, be considering, do I want to maybe be adding a poll to one of these slides, right? And then just like put a little placeholder box or make a mental note like, okay, in this slide, I'm going to be adding a poll once we get to Instagram. Okay, maybe on this slide, I'm going to be wanting to add a question box to ask my ideal customers about their biggest struggle or something like that, right? Keep those features in mind as you are designing your Instagram story highlights, because those are definitely helpful things to keep in mind and remember to use. And it's a good idea to be thinking about that as you're designing the slides in Canva so that then you can use them in a cohesive way when you go to share them on Instagram, right? Okay, so those are the things to consider when outlining your story slides. Now, let's go ahead and talk about an example outline of 4 slides that you can create for your About Me story highlight for your brand. And this is very, very similar to the sequence that I have created for our Canva template About Me story highlights for the Feel Good Social Clubbers, right? So in October, I shared 5 different versions of an About Me story highlight for my Feel Good Social Clubbers to take and customize. And this is the general outline, the strategy of the slides I've created for these highlights, right? So, first slide, when it comes to any of your story highlights, but especially this About Me story highlight, the first slide is kind of an introduction. It's kind of like setting the tone, setting the scene, waving hello to the people who are watching your story highlight, right? So there's always going to be an intro slide of some sort for your highlights. And for About Me story highlights, I kind of like the intro slide to be kind of your quote unquote elevator pitch for your brand, right? So your 10-second elevator pitch, you may have heard like other marketers talking about this because it's kind of a commonly used phrase, but it goes basically like this. Hi, I'm your name, and I help your ideal customer do X, Y, and Z, right? That's kind of the formula for a 10-second elevator pitch. So, hi, I'm Kinsey, and I help down to earth entrepreneurs market your business online in a way that feels good to you and is not wasting your precious time. Right? That's one of my iterations of elevator pitch that I use for Feel Good Social, right? So, what does your elevator pitch look like for you? Hi, I'm so and so, and I help whoever your ideal customers are, a quick description of them, do this, this, and this, right? Something that you could say in 10 seconds to someone in an elevator. So when it comes to your intro slide for your About Me story highlights, I like to just have that one sentence in text, with a nice little photo of you or video of you, right? So it could be a selfie that you take, or it could be like, you waving at the camera in a video. But it's always a good idea to start out these About Me story highlights with a photo or video of your face, because you are who you're talking about in this About Me story highlight, okay? And even if you feel camera shy, my friend, I am there with you. I have been there with you hardcore. And let me tell you, you can do this. You're beautiful. You can show your face on Instagram for your brand. It's strategic and it allows people to get to know you better. And it gets easier with practice, let me tell you. Okay, so first slide, intro slide. Second slide, tell them more about you. And this might seem obvious, but this is a great opportunity for you to say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I do this. And then when they hit to the next slide, you start to get into the guts, the middle of your story, and you can go into telling them more about you. And this is where that relatable, interesting stuff comes into play, right? This is where you start telling them, I love coffee. I have 3 dogs. I went and traveled Asia for 6 months with my boyfriend, right? This is where you can just start sharing some things about yourself that allows your ideal customers to relate to you, to feel like they're getting to know you, like you. It helps them trust you, and ultimately it helps them want to buy from you, right? And it can also make your brand more memorable and stand out more online if they can remember these little interesting, relatable facts about you, right? So the things that I like to tell people to tell your ideal customers about yourself is the relatable stuff, right? What can you tell them that will make your ideal customers go, oh, yeah, me too? So this could be things such as, what do you love to eat? Like your favorite food, right? Like, I love tacos. This could be like your zodiac signs or your Enneagram number. I'm a Capricorn, Enneagram 7, by the way, if you're wondering about me over here. I would love to hear what Enneagram number you are, especially I geek out about Enneagrams. If you want to let me know yours, just message me at Feel Good Social on Instagram. Tell me you came from the podcast and that you're an Enneagram whatever number. I would love to hear it because I'm a nerd for it. Okay, anyway, moving on. Share relatable stuff. I love coffee. I'm a dog person. I love the movie Mean Girls, right? Like, any of that relatable stuff that like you feel like you would connect with your ideal customers over, right? You can also share the interesting stuff on this one slide, or this can be turned into multiple slides in the middle, in the guts of it, right? So interesting stuff, stuff that like makes you quirky or unique or like just is kind of memorable, right? So like for me, it's I wrote down on my notes, we own both a mini-sized van and a full-sized van, which is something I've been telling people lately. I don't know if you follow along my personal story at all. On Instagram, I share a lot of Instagram stories just about behind the scenes stuff with me and Brett, my fiance, almost husband. And basically, a while ago, we bought a Sprinter van, lifelong dream. Hell yeah, super excited about it. We went on like one road trip. We've gone camping in it a couple times. We spent most of this summer building it out, building a bed platform, a stove, a sink, all that stuff. And I say we, I mean mostly Brett, but I helped. I did help. Long story short, the like week before we were about to go on a big 2-month road trip for it, it broke down. And that is an entire extra long story that I could get into about this, like countdown timer, number of starts left, all this stuff. Anyway, the Sprinter van is not working currently. It's currently in the dealership. It's sitting at the dealership for like 10 weeks minimum. And so we had to come to South Carolina recently, right after the Sprinter broke down. We're like, okay, road trip's not happening. Let's go pursue this opportunity in South Carolina, at least get out of Colorado for a little bit this summer. And none of our other cars were really going to make the road trip, especially with our 3 dogs, right? So we ended up buying a minivan. And so now I laugh. Okay, I don't know how you feel about minivans. I freaking love ours so much. We do not have kids. We do have 3 fur children, okay, 3 dogs. And it is amazing because there's so much room in this minivan. It's awesome. It's totally a mom mobile, but I don't care. I'm incognito. No one pulls over a minivan. Let me tell you, everyone is very friendly to minivans. I love driving this thing. It's so roomy and it's got a great turning radius. I just feel like a badass in my minivan, if we're honest. So anyway, that's my whole long ass tangent to tell you that an interesting fact that I might include on Feel Good Socials about me story highlight is that Brett and I own both a mini-sized van and a full-size van, right? That's an interesting talking point that people could bring up and want to hear the story about when it comes to having conversations with people. So what interesting facts do you have to share about yourself, right? Another one I wrote down is that Brett and I traveled in Asia for 6 months. That's something that I tell a lot of people because people are either like, oh, wow, like, did you love it? And it kind of inspires them because they may want to travel, or it at least shows that we're adventurous spirits, right? Or often I have people say, oh my gosh, I've been to Asia, like, and we connect over that, right? So it's relatable and interesting, double whammy. So what interesting facts can you share? More stuff about you that you could share is helpful/persuasive traits or just like interesting things about you, right? Okay, so what I mean by helpful or persuasive stuff, so it's basically the stuff that you would like put on a resume, like traits about you that might help to persuade people to want to hire you because it shows them, oh, this girl will do a good job, right? So for me, I think I tell people a lot that I'm a word nerd, right? I really love language and I love understanding language and how you can use the right words to attract your ideal customers for your brand. Being a word nerd is something that I'm proud of. And I think it's a trait that will make people want to work with me more so because they realize that I care about the language that I'm using in their social media posts I create for them, right? Also, I love storytelling in both a genuine, authentic, and strategic way. Right? So I'm such a nerd for hearing people's stories and understanding how can I tell this story for them in a way that is going to make sense for their ideal customers and attract the right people to their brand that will make their right ideal customers want to work with them, right? Storytelling nerd is another helpful and persuasive trait that I might share on my About Me story highlight. So what does that look like for you? Organizational geek, systems person, like, I don't know. Definitely be sharing some of that persuasive stuff, the persuasive traits that make you feel like you're an expert and will do a good job in whatever industry you're in, right? Okay. Got into a long ass explanation of slide 2, but basically slide 2, and again, this can be turned into multiple slides. Always remember the user experience and all that stuff, but you basically just want to go into telling people just more about you and more possibly even about your brand, right? Your brand values or anything like that could be included in this little section of your About Me story highlight. A fun way to do this, and this is a slide that I've created in our Canva templates for the story highlights for the Feel Good Social Club that Feel Good Social Clubbers can customize and whatnot, right? A fun way to do this is to just make a list, right? I think I've titled some of these slides like me in a minute. And it's like Capricorn loves IPAs, has traveled Asia for 6 months, like just make kind of a list of these random facts about you. It's fun for people to look at these bulleted lists. And it's a really easy way to do that. You could do me by the numbers, right? If you want to create like 8 years in business, 6 awards, or so. I don't know. I'm just like making this up off the top of my head at this point. But anyway, a few different ways you could do this is just like make a list about you. Oh, I think I'd also titled some of these slides "Me in a Nutshell" or "Me in a Minute" or "Me by the Numbers" or anything like that, right? A bulleted list is really great for these types of slides. Also, if you do want to get into your family or your dogs, right? You could create a slide that's like, meet the fam, a photo of your kids, a photo of your dogs, and you're like kind of just explaining in like one sentence for each of them. My children, Emma and Jake, are, 2 and 3 respectively. Like motherhood, I'm so glad I can show up and empower them to see a woman who is an entrepreneur or something like that, right? We have 3 dogs, Tark, Stan, and Willie. I have to put like a cute little photo of our dogs in that slide and just be like, they help me get through my day to day. Like they're great for petting when I'm feeling stressed or something. I don't know what I would put there, but like that's an interesting way to kind of create a slide in your About Me story highlight. Okay. So the second kind of section, slide 2 or multiple slides, is telling them more about you in your About Me story highlight. The third section / slide 3, but again, this could totally be turned into multiple slides within your sequence, right? Is to bring it back to your ideal customer. Okay. So this is basically like you're telling them about you and then you're bringing it back to what that means for them. Like, how does knowing more about you like, how is that helpful for them in some way? Or what are they, what should they expect out of a relationship with you or something like that, right? So, one easy way to talk about this is basically when we work together, right? Or it could be when you shop with us if you're a product-based business. But when we work together, this is a great way to like bring it back to your business, right? And then make it more about your ideal customer again. So when you shop with us or when we work together, you will no longer X, Y, and Z, and instead you'll X, Y, and Z. Okay. So, a way that I like to lay this out again in the story slides is in bullet point form. It's like when we work together, dot, 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 you'll no longer bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And instead, you will bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And again, this is, if you're having trouble visualizing this, this is a part of the templates that I have shared to the Feel Good Social Club this month for October. So join the club, check out the templates, you'll see what I'm talking about. But basically, we just want to be explaining to them, hey, now that you know about me, let's talk about working together. Let's talk about shopping with us. I know that you are struggling with, I know that you desire, I know that you feel one way right now, but when you work with me, instead, you will feel this way. We'll solve this problem. We will help you achieve that desire, right? So the XYZ, I always like to think about it in those terms, right? The XYZ bullet points of when we work together, you'll no longer XYZ and instead you'll XYZ. I like to think about XYZ as the problems, desires, and feelings that your customers are currently having. And then after they work with you, what those problems, desires, and feelings will be instead, right? So I know that you're struggling to show up online in a genuine way. I know that you want to see success without wasting hours and hours of your life creating posts that like no one sees anyway, right? I know that you're feeling frustrated because the algorithm is always freaking changing and Instagram is adding way more features and all that different stuff all the time, right? So instead, when we work together, you will understand how to utilize your story and show up on Instagram in a genuine way that is going to help drive deeper connection with your ideal customers and those people who will actually buy from you, right? You will actually be able to show up in the most efficient way possible, in a way that's going to get you results, utilizing features that will get you results without wasting all of your time, right? How can you show up in a way that is going to get you the best results and take you the least amount of time? I will help you do that when you work with me, right? Okay, this is like way more longer winded than should be in your Instagram story highlights, right? So this is the power of editing, right? But I'm just kind of trying to explain what these bullet points could look like. And don't forget to talk about the way your customers feel too. This is something that I tend to skip over, which is so funny. For whatever reason, I'm more of a logical person, and I tend to skip over the empathetic bullet points that are talking about feelings, right? So don't forget to think, what are my ideal customers feeling right now before they work with me, right? Are they feeling frustrated? Are they feeling drained? Are they feeling stressed out? And what is specifically frustrating them, stressing them out? What specifically is draining them, right? That's a great bullet point. And then on the flip side, how will they be feeling after they work with you, right? Will they be feeling energized? Will they be feeling like they finally understand what the heck Instagram is about, right? Will they be feeling actually excited to show up online for their brand, right? Think about these different things. Like when we work together, you'll no longer whatever their situation looks like right now, and instead you will whatever their situation will look like after they work with you, right? This is a great place to include this information in your Instagram story highlight, and it will then lead into your final slide, which is your call to action slide. This should be included in every single one of your Instagram story highlights and especially your About Me story highlight. So now that you have brought it back to your ideal customers, you're talking about working together and what they can expect and all that different stuff. Shabam, your final slide should be your call to action slide. It's kind of like, what do you want to do about it now? Right? So this could look like, are you ready to work with me? This could look like, does this sound like something you need? Like, does it sound like something you need help with or whatever that looks like, right? And the most important thing about your final call to action slide is to include a direct action. Okay. So that could be telling them, reply to this story. Let's get this convo started, right? This could be using a poll. If you're asking a question like, does this sound like something you need? Use the poll sticker. Heck yeah. Not really. I don't know. Whatever those answers look like for you. Or especially this could look like including a direct link using the link sticker to your website to sign up to work with you or to go buy whatever product makes the most sense for them to offer them, right? So just make sure that in your final call to action slide, you just include a direct call to action, and then you include the action to take, whether that is direct instructions to reply or using an interactive feature such as the link sticker or something like that. Okay. And once again, in the Feel Good Social Club, our Canva templates I have added this month include the call to action slides as well. So, my friend, I know that I can always get long-winded and over-explanatory with this shit, if that's a word. But I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you have generated some ideas. I hope that you're feeling inspired to go out and create an About Me story highlight for your brand. I cannot wait to see it. I literally am so excited and I want to see what you create. So definitely connect with me over on Instagram. I'm at Feel Good Social. Give me a follow, send me a message. Let me know that you came from the podcast. If you send me a message, I will be sure to follow you back and continue to like all your posts and all that different stuff. And if you're interested in joining the Feel Good Social Club, I would absolutely love to have you in there, my friend. It's feelgoodsocial.com/club. When you join today, you will immediately gain access to our 1,000 plus Canva template designs at this point and growing every month. Plus, you can immediately go check out the Instagram story highlight templates I have added this month and see how you can use them. Then you don't have to start from scratch when it comes to creating your Instagram story highlights, right? So go check those out. You can even just join for 1 month if you want to. Check it out, see if you like it, and you can always leave whenever you want to. No commitment, my friend. So head over to feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. And also, final thing, please tell me when you create your Instagram story highlight because I definitely want to go check it out and see what you create. And I would love to give you some support over on Instagram at Feel Good Social, my friend. So let me know what you come up with. Send it my way. I will totally, give you feedback or whatever that looks like. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.